In the headlines of this hour on VTV News, State President pays working visit to Tra Vinh province. And later on, first 6 months FDI inflow in Vietnam reaches highest level in the past 5 years. In our world news, China to hold anti-dumping hearing on EU brandy imports.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good morning. It is currently 8 a.m. local time and you're tuning into 30 minutes of VTV News. I'm Dilin Lei with the latest updates. Now, during his Friday meeting with Tra Vinh province leaders, State President Tô Lâm confirmed he would work with relevant agencies to seek solutions to boost the locality's growth rate. More to follow.
In the first half of this year, Tra Vinh's growth rate exceeded 10%, with a budget revenue of more than 11 trillion VND and a 1.19% poverty rate. State President Tô Lâm spoke highly of the recent achievements that the province has recorded. The state president recognized some of the difficulties that the province is facing. These include common difficulties in the Mekong Delta region regarding transport infrastructure and climate change. At the same time, the state leader suggested that the province leverage the potential of renewable energy, enhance waterway transport linkages, and promote digital transformation to create new growth drivers.
Tra Vinh province has experienced remarkable growth recently, especially with encouraging indicators in the first 6 months. Despite ongoing challenges, Tra Vinh is emerging from its status as a poor province. We are eager to collaborate with the province's leaders to address its remaining difficulties. Furthermore, we are committed to supporting Tra Vinh in advancing digital transformation and adopting new technologies in production. With decisive steps, we can leap forward and implement cutting-edge technologies in manufacturing, thereby effecting transformative change.
The state president stressed the importance of prioritizing the construction of essential infrastructure projects in Tra Vinh province, with a focus on reducing poverty among the Khmer ethnic groups. He highlighted Tra Vinh as a key target for reactionary organizations. He urged the grassroots political system, authorities, and local communities to prevent hostile forces from spreading misinformation about ethnic and religious issues. During his visit, the state president presented the province with 1,400 radios to facilitate faster access to official information for ethnic communities. Additionally, on the same day, State President Tô Lâm visited the family of Lieutenant General and Hero of the People's Armed Forces Sermkong and several policy families and poor households in the province.
State President Tô Lâm held a working session with Engineering Brigade 25 under Military Region 9 in the Mekong Delta province of Vĩnh Long on Friday. This key unit in Military Region 9 is stationed at 9 points across Vĩnh Long, Đồng Tháp and Kiên Giang provinces and Cần Thơ City, including the island communes of Thổ Châu and Tiền Hải in Kiên Giang province.
In his address, the state president hailed the armed forces of Military Region 9, particularly its Engineering Brigade 25, for thoroughly grasping their core political missions and seriously following the leadership and directions of party committees and local authorities. They were also lauded for performing regular and unscheduled tasks with significant results. The brigade was required to pay attention to political and ideological education to equip officers and soldiers with a strong political will and a high sense of responsibility, actively defending the party's ideological foundation and combating wrongful and hostile views, as well as staying ready to assist the public in disaster prevention and control when natural disasters occur. The state president also called on the Engineering Brigade to resolutely and persistently fight corruption, strive to overcome difficulties and accomplish all their tasks.
Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính received Lao Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Salim Say Komasith in Hanoi on Friday. The Prime Minister expressed his belief that the working visit would be a great success, making an important contribution to strengthening the great friendship, special solidarity, and comprehensive cooperation between Vietnam and Laos.
Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh affirmed that Vietnam always attaches importance to and prioritizes its special and unique friendship with Laos. The Prime Minister suggested that the two countries' governments, ministries, and local branches continue to concretize and effectively implement the agreement between the Politburos of Vietnam and Laos. The Prime Minister suggested enhanced connectivity and transport infrastructure development, such as highways and railways, to link the two economies and boost trade growth. The Prime Minister also urged ministries and sectors to coordinate and prepare for the forthcoming high-level visit. The Lao Deputy Prime Minister stated that he would closely coordinate with Vietnamese agencies to thoroughly resolve the remaining cooperation issues between the two countries as directed by the Prime Minister, which would contribute to fostering the increasingly strong and effective Laos-Vietnam relationship.
Earlier the same day, Deputy Prime Minister of Vietnam Trần Lưu Quang and Lao Deputy Prime Minister Salumse Komasith held talks discussing specific measures to implement agreements reached by the two countries' senior leaders and the results of the 46th meeting of the Vietnam-Laos Intergovernmental Committee on Bilateral Cooperation. The two sides noted with satisfaction the positive developments and productive gains recorded in bilateral cooperation in all areas, from politics, diplomacy, defense, security, to economics, trade, investment, culture, and people-to-people exchanges. In the context of complex regional and global developments, they stressed the need to continue promoting all pillars of cooperation and removing obstacles for key projects and road, rail, and rail traffic connections. They also agreed to expand and improve the effectiveness of bilateral cooperation in education, training, culture, and people-to-people exchanges. Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh met with Cambodian Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Civil Service Hun Mani on Friday. During the meeting, the Prime Minister highlighted the importance of mass mobilization work, expressing confidence that both sides would continue to share experiences and engage in practical activities to enhance its quality. He emphasized the need to promote economic connectivity, trade and investment cooperation to achieve $20 billion in bilateral trade turnover. He also called for efforts to resolve the remaining 16% of the undemarcated border and to educate the public, especially the younger generation, about the importance of preserving and fostering a good neighborly relationship, traditional friendship, and comprehensive cooperation between Vietnam and Cambodia. Deputy Prime Minister Hun Mani expressed Cambodia's deep gratitude for Vietnam's assistance. They committed to preserving and promoting the friendship between the two countries. At a meeting with Secretary of the Party Central Committee and Head of the Party Central Committee's Commission for Mass Mobilization, Bùi Thị Minh Hoài, on Friday, Cambodian Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Civil Service Hun Mani congratulated Vietnam on its recent achievements. He affirmed that Cambodia will always preserve and cultivate friendships and strengthen relations between the two parties and their mass mobilization commissions. The Vietnamese party official thanked the Cambodian government for creating favorable conditions for people of Vietnamese origin to live in Cambodia and supporting and removing difficulties for Vietnamese businesses investing in Cambodia. She urged the two mass mobilization commissions to strengthen cooperation and implement the agreed contents well, contributing to the common cause of each party and each country. Coming up next on VTV News. The first 6 months of FDI inflows into Vietnam reaches the highest level in the past 5 years. And later on, military outposts stand the test of time, protecting Vietnamese waters. Welcome back to VTV News Live. Now on to other important updates. Although tax revenue in the first half of this year decreased by nearly $1.2 billion due to extensions for the payment of tax and land rent. According to the resolutions of the National Assembly and the government, budget revenue still achieved encouraging results. The stable macroeconomy has created favorable conditions for production and business activities to recover and contribute additional revenue to the state budget.
The tax departments of Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi contribute more than 40% of the total revenue from the tax sector. The tax collections from these two cities significantly bolster domestic revenue results. In the first 6 months of the year, the Hanoi Tax Department collected over $9.6 billion in taxes, equal to 64.2% of the ordinance estimate.
The tax sector is guided by the motto, improving the database as the foundation, supporting taxpayers as the central task, and making inspection work a priority. We closely monitor enterprise performance to develop a suitable tax collection plan.
Thanks to the government's effective guidance and Vietnam's positive socio-economic performance, most sectors outperformed last year. The tax sector estimates total state budget revenue at over $34 billion, which equals 58.2% of the projected target, marking a 15.3% year-on-year increase.
Taxpayers have taken advantage of the support packages issued by the National Assembly and the government to boost their business and production activities. The effective coordination of local authorities at all levels plays a crucial role in strengthening administrative procedure reform and attracting investment inflow to create a sustainable source of budget revenue.
In the last months of the year, the government will issue policies to extend, exempt, and reduce taxes, fees, charges, and land rents to support citizens and enterprises further. This effort will accelerate the economic recovery and streamline budget collection in the last months of 2024.
In the first half of this year, the total capital registered by foreign investors in Vietnam reached nearly $15.2 billion, up 13.1% over the same period last year. The realized capital of foreign investment projects in the past 6 months is estimated at $10.84 billion, marking an 8.2% year-on-year growth. That is the highest level in the first 6 months of the year in the past 5 years, demonstrating the stronger confidence of foreign investors in Vietnam.
This South Korean business specializes in manufacturing and exporting smartphone cameras. Since the beginning of this year, the company has concentrated all its resources on establishing a production line in Vietnam dedicated to global exports.
We notice that Vietnam has the most suitable investment environment. The government always puts forward policies to improve the investment and business environment. The Vietnamese workforce is dynamic and skilled.
Since the beginning of the year, South Korean enterprises have escalated their foreign investments in Vietnam. South Korea leads among countries in terms of the frequency with which it has adjusted its investment capital upwards in Vietnam.
The Prime Minister has also often emphasized and affirmed support and assistance to resolve the difficulties of our country's investors in Vietnam. Many of our Korean investors will expand their investment in Vietnam in the near future.
South Korea, Singapore, Japan, and China have invested the most in Vietnam since the beginning of the year. These traditional Asian partners of Vietnam have concentrated their resources on implementing large projects in semiconductors, energy, and electronic products.
In the north, we see new factory construction has been progressed in Quang Ninh or Bac Ninh and other provinces, which is accelerating companies, particularly manufacturing.
In the first half of this year, exports by foreign invested enterprises in Vietnam continued to accelerate compared to the same period last year. These enterprises had a trade surplus of nearly $23 billion, offsetting the trade deficit of more than $13 billion of domestic enterprises.
Fresh Vietnamese lychees have gained popularity in many international markets. However, due to limitations in preservation technology and transportation, Vietnam still faces difficulties in exporting lychees to demanding markets such as the EU, the United States, and Japan. Many localities have prioritized deep processing and product diversification to help farmers improve the quality of fresh lychees. Our report is from Luc Ngan district, the largest lychee growing area in Vietnam.
This company purchases more than 3,000 tons of lychees every year. Nearly 10% of the lychees they buy are exported, while the rest are processed into various value-added products. The company also invested more than $1 million in freezing technology to extend shelf life and retain the maximum flavor of lychees after thawing.
This lychee meets export standards. Meanwhile, lychees with cracked skin still fresh inside will be dried to make syrup.
When it comes to deep processing, lychees must be fresh, no matter how they look. Fresh lychees qualified for export must meet strict requirements in terms of pesticide residues, color, and sweetness. Frozen lychees can be preserved and sold all year round, while fresh lychees can only be preserved for a short time.
In addition to fresh lychees, Japan, the United States, and the EU market want to import more Vietnamese lychee products. However, many Vietnamese export companies cannot meet such growing demand.
Deep processing adds value to lychees, helping lychee farmers improve their income. As the global demand for Vietnamese lychees grows, export companies must invest in deep processing equipment and technologies.
Lychee output in Luc Ngan district, Bắc Giang province, reaches about 150,000 tons annually. To meet the growing demand of international markets, local authorities have prioritized the use of new deep processing technologies to reduce costs and improve the quality of local lychees.
Friday marks the 35th anniversary of the Economic Scientific Service Cluster DK1 in the reef area on the southern continental shelf belonging to the Vũng Tàu Côn Đảo Special Zone. From the first 3 rig units, there are now 15 rig units on the shoals Ba Kè, Huyền Trân, Quế Đường, Tư Chính, Phúc Tần, Phúc Nguyên, and Cà Mau. Each DK1 rig acts like a sovereignty landmark, providing solid support for fishermen to confidently go offshore and stay at sea. Over the past 35 years, DK1 rigs have excelled in their duty of guarding and protecting the sovereignty of the sea, islands, and southern continental shelf of the fatherland. DK1 platforms, in addition to their value in collecting marine data, are considered landmarks that testify to Vietnam's sovereignty over the continental shelf and its oil and gas. Vietnam's military outposts constructed in the East Sea were internationally recognized as extraordinary defense infrastructure, a well-deserved achievement by the Vietnamese people and soldiers. For decades, many generations have crewed and maintained the platforms, contributing to defending the country's sea and island sovereignty.
DK-114 platform is located on Tư Chính Shoal. Although the platform can be seen from several nautical miles in good weather conditions, it's not easy to get there. Vietnamese naval personnel stay committed to fulfilling the duties despite unfavorable living conditions.
Naval personnel face many difficulties living in the middle of the ocean. However, they have developed strong willpower and determination to protect the fatherland.
Despite hardships, the naval crews devise many leisure activities to overcome homesickness and their daily difficulties. This is the first time Thuần and Dat have been assigned to perform DK-114 platform duties.
I often play chess, kick shuttlecock, or do push-ups exercise in my leisure time.
Thanks to everyone's care and support, this place is my second home.
Mai Thanh Tuan has been stationed at different platforms for 15 years. With his deep love for the sea and strong sense of patriotism, he's proud to serve in a special military unit during his military service.
I am deeply honored and very proud to perform my duties here. I hope to contribute to safeguarding the sacred fatherland.
The first DK1 platform was constructed in the Phuc Tân cluster in July 1989. Since then, 15 DK1 platforms have been built in other clusters, including Ba Kè, Huyền Trân, Huế Đường, Tư Chính, Phúc Nguyên, and Cà Mau Shoals. Together, they form a steel belt, serving as a stronghold to safeguard the sovereignty of the nation's southern continental shelf.
The OCOP and Regional Specialty Product Fair is taking place in Châu Đốc City, An Giang Province, along with many appealing consumer stimulus programs. The fair has attracted more than 50 specialty booths of enterprises and cooperatives from 4 provinces in the southern region. Each booth will participate in promoting and selling typical products such as rice, fish sauce, salt, cakes, jams, and herbs. In addition to An Giang, Đồng Tháp, and Cà Mau, this weekend fair also has the participation of manufacturers from Tây Ninh province. The free market is expected to last until July the 7th. Thanks to consumer stimulus activities in the first 6 months of the year, An Giang's retail sales of goods reached more than $1.5 billion, an increase of about 14% over the same period in 2023. Coming up next in our world news, China to hold anti-dumping hearing on EU brandy imports. And later on, displaced Palestinians struggle to survive in Gaza. Now moving on to our world news, China's Commerce Ministry will hold an anti-dumping hearing on brandy imported from the European Union on July the 18th, according to a statement released on Friday. On January the 5th, China opened an anti-dumping investigation focused on European brandy imports in containers of less than 200 liters, a step that appears to be mainly targeted at France, which accounts for 99.8% of all EU brandy exports. The move came a day after the European Union announced it would impose new tariffs of up to 38% on Chinese electric cars starting on Friday. The new duties aim to counter unfair subsidized Chinese electric vehicles makers receive from the Chinese government. Last year, the European Commission launched an investigation into Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers on whether state subsidies were unfairly undercutting European car makers. The 24th Summit of Heads of State of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization (SCO) concluded on Thursday in Astana, Kazakhstan's capital, with Belarus formally accepted as the 10th member state of the international governmental organization. The latest expansion bolsters the SCO's capacity for regional cooperation and strengthens its influence on the global stage, underscoring its role as a vital platform for addressing contemporary security and economic challenges. In a joint statement, leaders of the SCO member states emphasized that currently security risks and challenges can only be resolved through the building of a multipolar world, the improvement of global economic governance, and coordinated efforts to tackle both conventional and non-conventional security threats. The SCO summit focused on the construction of the China-Kyrgyzstan-Uzbekistan or CKU railway. Meanwhile, Russia wants to develop the international north-south transport corridor, which will become a crucial alternative to transport goods to Europe. The ongoing war in Gaza is taking a heavy toll on civilians. Many displaced Palestinians have been forced to repeatedly flee their shelters amid a deteriorating humanitarian situation in the Strip.
Displaced from Beit Hanun, Athamna, her children, husband and mother-in-law are now staying in a school-turned-shelter in Khan Yunis. Despite the damage, her family returned to the school even though they are afraid of this place, because they had nowhere else to stay. Athamna said her family moved 9 times since the beginning of the war.
We were hit, it was powerful. No one could see or recognize anyone. It was like Judgment Day. There was dust, smoke, fire, and sparks in the air. We couldn't see because of the dust that hit us, and the flying stones and shrapnel made it impossible to see or recognize anything. I was looking for my children but couldn't find anyone.
Athamna sells bread to support her family. She is trying to save some money for their next displacement. According to the United Nations Humanitarian Agency, about 90% of the population of the Gaza Strip have been displaced at least once since the war between Israel and Hamas began.
We are people who sleep with death and wake up to death. We know that at any time we can die. When this event happened, we know that we could die at any moment. There was no prior warning. We are displaced on the basis that it's an agency that protects us, but nothing. Unfortunately, there is no protection. What can we do? We have no shelter, so I had to return to the same place even though we are afraid of this place.
Efforts to secure a ceasefire and hostage release in Gaza were gathering momentum on Friday, after Hamas made a revised proposal on the terms of a deal and Israel said it would resume stalled negotiations.
The Canadian government has authorized the implementation of a digital services tax on large foreign technology companies despite warnings of trade retaliation from the United States. The tax is a 3% levy on a company's digital services revenue from Canadian users above $14.7 million in a calendar year. It applies only to companies with annual worldwide revenue of more than $808 million. The levy will primarily hit major U.S. firms, including Alphabet and Meta. Canada's parliamentary budget officers estimated the tax would raise about $7.2 billion over 5 fiscal years. U.S. lawmakers and government officials view the tax as unfair and have threatened to retaliate if Canada moves forward with it. And before we say goodbye, let's have a look at the weather forecast. And that is all that we have this hour on VTV News. To rewatch our program, you can visit our official website or our YouTube channel or download a mobile app VTVgo for more. Thank you for watching and goodbye for now.